My brother stood up at his own engagement party and pointed at me in front of 30 people and said, "She's the reason this family can never move forward." I didn't cry. I didn't yell back. I just sat there holding a glass of sparkling water, completely still, while everyone stared at me waiting for a reaction. That moment has lived in my chest like a splinter ever since. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My name is Claire. I'm 31 years old. I'm a registered nurse working nights at a hospital outside Columbus, Ohio. I have a one-bedroom apartment, a used Honda Civic I paid off 2 years ago, and a savings account I built from scratch by working doubles every chance I got. I also have a family that, for most of my adult life, I believed loved me, even when they made it hard to feel that way. My brother's name is Nathan. He's 28. He has never held a job longer than 8 months. Not because he can't find work. He's charming, he's decent looking, he can interview well when he tries. The problem is that the moment anything gets hard or boring or slightly inconvenient, he quits. And then he comes home, and then my parents absorb the cost of that, and somehow the conversation always ends with someone reminding me that I'm doing well, so I should help out. That's the sentence that defined my entire 20s. You're doing well, so you should help out. I helped pay Nathan's car insurance for 2.5 years after he lost his job at a logistics company because he showed up late one too many times. I co-signed a personal loan for him when he wanted to start a pressure washing business. The equipment is sitting in my parents' garage, barely used, because he did it for 4 months and then decided it was too physical. I quietly paid 3 months of his rent one winter when he was between jobs again, and my mom called me in tears saying he was going to be evicted. I didn't tell anyone I did that, I just did it. My parents knew some of this. Not all of it. My dad has always been the type to look away from financial specifics. He gets uncomfortable, changes the subject, says things like family takes care of family, and then leaves the room before anyone can ask a follow-up question. My mom is warmer, but she spent 40 years managing her own anxiety by making sure everyone around her is happy in the short term, even if it costs someone else in the long term. Usually me. And I let it go on because I believed, genuinely believed, that this was just what you did. You had more stability. You helped the people you loved. That was normal. That was family. I was wrong about what was normal. Nathan met his fiancée Diane about 2 years ago. She's fine. I want to be fair here. She didn't do anything wrong in this story. But the engagement shifted something in my family's dynamic in a way I didn't see coming. Suddenly, Nathan had a whole new direction. He was going to get serious, they said. He was going to step up. My parents were thrilled. My mom started planning a wedding in her head before he'd even bought a ring. The engagement party was held at my parents' house in late April. Backyard, string lights, maybe 30 people. Family, a few of Nathan and Diane's friends, some of my parents' neighbors. I came straight from a night shift. I'd slept 4 hours, showered, put on a dress, and driven 40 minutes to be there because that's what you do. For the first hour, everything was normal. I talked to my aunt. I helped carry out the food because my mom asked me to. I smiled at the right times. Nathan was in a good mood. Diane was glowing, and I thought, okay, maybe this is the beginning of something different for him. Maybe this is real. Then Nathan's friend, some guy named Tyler who I'd met maybe twice, made a comment about the pressure washing equipment still being in my parents' garage. He meant it as a joke. He was laughing. Nathan laughed too, at first, and then something shifted on his face. I don't know if it was the alcohol or if something had been building in him for a while, but he turned and looked directly at me across the yard and said, loudly enough for people to stop their conversations, "You know what, Claire? You've always had this way of making me feel small, like I can't do anything right." I blinked. I genuinely didn't know what was happening. I didn't say anything, I said. "You didn't have to. You never have to. You just show up and everybody talks about how responsible you are, how together you are, and meanwhile I'm standing here and I can feel what you think of me." I looked around. People were watching. Diane looked uncomfortable. My mom had gone very still. "Nathan, this isn't the time," I said. "No, it's always the time when it's about you, right? Everything is always about Claire and what Claire needs and how Claire feels, but when I need support, I have been supporting you," I said. I kept my voice level. I have literally been supporting you. And that's when he said it. He stepped forward slightly, and his voice dropped just enough to feel deliberate, and he said, "You think writing a check makes you family? You're not generous, Claire. You're controlling. You hold everything over my head, and then you act like a saint. Honestly, you've done more damage to this family than you've ever done good. We'd probably be better off without you in it." 30 people heard that. I turned to my parents. My dad was looking at the ground, and my mom looked at me with this expression I still can't fully describe. Not anger, something worse than anger, like she was tired. Like she agreed with him and was relieved someone had finally said it out loud. "She's right that she helps," my mom said quietly. "But Nathan has a point, Claire. You do have a way of making people feel like they owe you." I put down my glass of sparkling water on the nearest table, very carefully, picked up my purse, and walked to my car. Nobody followed me out. I sat in the parking spot at the end of my parents' street for about 10 minutes. Then I drove home. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in my bed and I went through every single financial thread I'd woven into my family's life over the past 6 years, and I started pulling them apart in my head one by one. The co-signed loan. Nathan's loan was through a credit union. I'd co-signed, which meant my name was on the debt. He'd been making minimum payments barely. I called the credit union the next morning and asked what my options were. The loan officer told me what I already half knew. I couldn't remove myself as a co-signer without Nathan either paying off the balance or refinancing in his name alone. I asked what would happen if payments stopped. She told me it would hit both our credit scores. I asked how much was left on the balance. She told me. It wasn't small, the car insurance. I'd been set up on auto pay for Nathan's policy through my bank account since I added him 3 years ago. I logged in that Monday and canceled it, effective end of the month. The monthly transfers. Every month for the past 14 months, I'd been sending my mom $400. She'd told me it was for household expenses, that things were tight since my dad's hours got cut. I'd never asked for details. I set up that transfer automatically and just let it run. I logged into my bank and stopped it. The streaming services. Small thing, but I'd been paying for a family plan on 2 different platforms that my parents and Nathan all used. Cancelled. I also called my bank and removed my parents as secondary contacts on my accounts. They'd been listed there since I first opened a checking account at 18, and I'd never thought to change it. Then I sat with the co-signed loan, which was the one thing I couldn't just switch off. Here's what I did about that. I called Nathan directly, first time we'd spoken since the party. He picked up on the 3rd ring, sounding cautious. "I need you to start making full payments on the credit union loan," I said. "Not minimums, full payments. And I need you to look into refinancing it into your name only within the next 90 days. He was quiet for a moment. Then, "Claire, come on. I'm planning a wedding." "I know. And I need my name off that loan." "You're seriously doing this right now? After the party, I'm guessing." "Yes, after the party," he sighed. "Look, I was upset, okay? I didn't mean it exactly like that, Nathan. I need you to refinance the loan. I'm going to follow up in 30 days. I hung up. 3 days later, my mom called. "The auto pay didn't go through," she said, "for Nathan's insurance." "I know," I said. "I canceled it." Silence. "Claire, he needs that insurance." "He's 28, I said. "He can set up his own policy." "You know money is tight right now." "I also stopped the monthly transfers," I said. "And the streaming services." Another silence. Longer this time. "I see," she said finally. "Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. At the party, when Nathan said the family would be better off without me, did you agree with him?" She didn't answer right away, which was itself an answer. "I think," she said slowly, "that sometimes your help comes with a lot of weight, expectations. And it's hard for Nathan to feel. I have never once asked Nathan for anything in return," I said. "Not once. I gave him money, I co-signed for him, I paid his rent for 3 months, which you don't even fully know about, and I did all of that without conditions. So I need to understand what expectations you're talking about, because I genuinely don't know." She was quiet. "What do you mean you paid his rent?" she finally said. 3 months, 2 winters ago, he was about to be evicted and you called me crying. So I paid it. I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to make Nathan feel bad. More silence. He told us he'd worked it out himself, she said in a smaller voice. He let you believe that. I heard her exhale. I love you, Mom, I said, but I can't keep being the person who holds everything up while getting told I'm the problem. I just can't do it anymore. We got off the phone. I don't know what she did after that. I went to work. What happened over the next 6 weeks was a slow unraveling that I watched from a distance. Nathan couldn't get insured on his own as easily as he thought. His driving record had 2 incidents on it, and without being bundled onto someone else's plan, his premium was significantly higher than what I'd been paying. He called me twice about it. I didn't answer. He texted. I texted back the name of an independent insurance broker I found online and said he could shop around. My mom stopped getting the $400 a month. I know this caused strain. My dad called me once, which he almost never does, and asked if everything was okay. I told him yes. I told him I'd had to make some adjustments to my budget. He didn't push further. The credit union sent Nathan a notice about the loan. He missed a payment. Not the full payment, just paid the minimum and then apparently forgot the next one, because I got a courtesy call as cosigner. I called him immediately. Nathan, you missed a payment on the loan? I know, I've been busy. This affects my credit. Fix it today. You act like I'm doing this on purpose. I don't care if it's on purpose or not. Fix it today and then start the refinancing process. I'm not asking anymore. He fixed it. He did not start the refinancing process. About a month after the party, my aunt, my mom's sister, who was at the engagement party and heard everything, called me. She's always been the straight-talking one in the family. I've been thinking about what happened at that party, she said. Yeah, I said. Nathan was wrong, and your mother was wrong to say what she said. I didn't say anything. I also want you to know that some of the people there, a few of your parents' friends, and honestly, some of Nathan's friends too, they talked about it afterward. They weren't on his side, Claire. Most people were shocked. I hadn't known that. Somehow it helped even though it didn't change anything. I asked your mom about the money stuff, my aunt continued. She told me about the $400, the insurance. She felt bad, I could tell. Did she say that? That she felt bad? A pause. She said she hadn't realized how much you've been carrying, which wasn't quite the same thing, but it was something. The wedding is still planned for next spring. I've been invited. I haven't RSVP'd. I think about the version of me that existed before that engagement party, the one who would have shown up to the wedding, helped pay for something without being asked, swallowed any hurt feelings to keep the peace. And I feel a complicated mix of sadness and relief that she's gone. Here's what I know now that I wish I'd understood at 23. Financial support and emotional support are not the same thing, and giving someone money does not mean they feel loved by you, and it doesn't mean you feel loved by you, and it doesn't mean you feel loved by them. It's a transaction even when it comes from genuine care. And if a transaction is the primary language of a relationship, you need to look at that honestly. I also know, and this is the part the top comment at the engagement party understood, the comment someone told me about later, the one that said you can't remove your name from a cosign loan without the lender's permission, that I made real mistakes. I cosigned without understanding what I was locking myself into. I set up auto payments without a plan for stopping them. I gave without documentation, without conversation, without any acknowledgement from Nathan or my parents that what I was doing was significant. That's not martyrdom, that's poor planning, and I own that. The loan is still in my name. Nathan made the last 2 payments on time. Whether that's because he suddenly became responsible or because he knows I'm watching, I can't tell you. I'm still following up every month. My relationship with my parents is different now. Cooler. More honest, maybe. In the way that things become more honest when you stop pretending. My mom and I talk, but there are things we don't talk about. My dad and I were never that close to begin with, so not much has changed there. The version of me that kept giving and kept quiet and kept telling herself that one day they'd see it. She deserved better than what she got. And the version of me now, the one who canceled the auto pay and said no out loud for the first time, she's still figuring things out. She's not perfect. She's tired a lot. She works nights and comes home to a quiet apartment, and sometimes that quiet feels like freedom, and sometimes it just feels quiet. But she doesn't get called the reason the family can't move forward anymore. And honestly, that's enough for now. I keep coming back to something small. The way I set down that glass of sparkling water at the party. Carefully. Both hands. Like if I didn't do it carefully, something worse would happen. That detail has stayed with me because I think it was the last moment I was still trying to hold it all together for everyone else's sake. What happened after that wasn't dramatic. I didn't flip a table or make a speech. I just stopped. Stopped the transfers, stopped the insurance payments, stopped absorbing costs that were never mine to absorb in the first place. And I thought a lot about why it took one very public humiliation to get me there, when 6 years of quiet giving hadn't moved me at all. The honest answer is that I had confused being good with being useful. I thought if I kept showing up, kept covering what needed covering, the people I loved would eventually understand what that meant. That's not ethics. That's a transaction with no receipt. Real integrity isn't about how much you give. It's about whether what you're doing reflects what you actually believe is right, including for yourself. I had been funding a dynamic that wasn't healthy for Nathan or for me, and I called it love, because it was easier than calling it what it was, avoidance. The financial piece was the practical layer, but underneath it was a question of judgment. Mine. I co-signed a loan without understanding the legal implications. I set up auto payments and never built in a review. I gave Nathan 3 months of rent and let him take credit for it with our parents, which didn't protect his dignity, it just delayed reality. None of those were acts of malice. But they weren't smart either, thinking clearly about money, about what you can actually afford to give, what strings exist even when you pretend they don't, what you're enabling versus what you're genuinely helping. That's not coldness. That's how you make sure your help actually helps. And then there's the harder part. The part where I had to keep going after the party, after the call with my mom, after Nathan missed the loan payment, and I had to follow up anyway. The version of me who wanted to just disappear and never deal with any of them again. She was understandable. She was exhausted, but she wasn't the version who was going to build something better. Showing up for yourself, especially when it's inconvenient and uncomfortable and nobody's applauding you for it, is its own kind of discipline. I still followed up on the loan every month. I still answered when my dad called. I didn't burn the bridge. I just stopped paying the toll to cross it. Claire from before that engagement party would have RSVP'd to the wedding by now. She would have offered to help with something. She would have folded back in and told herself it was fine. I still haven't RSVP'd. That quiet is not nothing. That quiet is the sound of someone finally figuring out that keeping the peace was costing her hers.